We work to provide a CIBIL MSME rank to every MSMEs in the country based upon their repayment history, based upon their utilization levels, based upon their repayment track, everything. Now, CMR ranges from 1 to 10, 1 being the best. The industry has moved towards risk-based pricing, which means that every MSME who have a CMR of 1 to 3 will get a green channel treatment from the financial institution within the country. Now, what does it do? It helps migrate the MSMEs from the informal credit sector to the formal credit sector. At the same time, the institutions are encouraging the MSMEs to have a good repayment history so that they continuously keep getting working capital and long-term loans from them to enhance and expand their business. Sure. So what it does is that it really empowers the MSME to grow their businesses, and when MSMEs grow, India grows.
Hi everyone and welcome to a new series on Paisa Credit Conversation with CIBIL. I'm your host Anupam Gupta. Today marks the beginning of our journey into the intriguing world of credit with none other than the experts on the topic TransUnion CIBIL. Through this journey, we will interact with topic experts from the industry with experience and insights that are sure to open up a whole new world of finance for all of us. So, starting the engine today, we are diving into a crucial topic that affects every one of us: credit bureaus, their history, their importance in India's financial ecosystem. I have with me a very distinguished guest, Bhavesh Jain, MD and CEO of TransUnion CIBIL. Welcome to the show. Thank you so much for doing this.
Thanks, Anupam. Great to be on your show. Love your show and like the conversations in all of your podcast.
Thank you so much for your kind words. Let's start from the beginning. TransUnion CIBIL, one of the oldest and most highly regarded credit bureaus in India. How did it start? And what relevance does it have in today's credit industry?
So, TransUnion CIBIL got started in the early 2000s. In fact, we'll be completing 25 years of our existence. CIBIL came into existence through a Siddiqui committee, and we are governed by the SICRA Act, passed in Parliament in 2005. And we have been working with all the financial institutions for more than 2 decades on multiple areas. And the most important mission we have as an organization is to enable credit in this country. And a large proportion of the growth and the economic well-being have been enabled by the financial institution to supply of credit. And CIBIL has been partnering with these financial institutions to make credit available easily and ensuring that the consumer gets the best benefits by a good CIBIL score and a good repayment history.
And credit is very important, as we all know. So, we know that TransUnion CIBIL has a great impact holistically on the economy. Could you break down the different sections of the economy that interact with TransUnion CIBIL and are benefited by it?
Great. So, most important is in terms of the SICRA Act 2005 mandates all the credit institutions in the country to submit their entire lending data to CIBIL on a monthly basis. Now, basis that data submitted, we put together a credit information report of individuals as well as the commercial credit information report for the MSMEs. And basis the data provided by all the credit institutions, we provide a 3-digit number or a score called the CIBIL score to every individual, which ranges from 300 to 900, 900 being the best. The CMR ranges from 1 to 10, 1 being the best, which means the highest likelihood for an MSME entity to get a loan or a credit facility in this country. Now, which are the institutions we interact? Obviously, all the credit granting institutions which have been regulated by RBI. Second is we interact with all the regulatory agencies, and most important is RBI. Third, and the key for which we exist, is serving the consumers. So today, the consumer has access to their CIBIL report and CIBIL score. So as per law, every individual is entitled to one free credit report from CIBIL.com, where they come in, they key in their details and get their one annual credit report free. And at the same time, when an individual goes to an institution, first thing they get asked is about their CIBIL score and the credit report. So a consumer is entitled to the benefits from the financial institutions based upon their repayment history, how they manage their credit, and how they ensure a good CIBIL score for themselves.
Yeah, very interesting. I want to now go into the risk scoring model and the work that you do for MSMEs, right? Because it was TransUnion CIBIL that had introduced India's first unique risk scoring model for banks and financial institutions, and the CIBIL score, which was launched by the CIBIL MSME rank, or called the CMR, in 2017, designed to evaluate the credit risk ranking of MSMEs, which stands for micro, small, and medium enterprise. So let's go into the work that TransUnion CIBIL does for MSMEs.
Great question. Before we go into specifics of the CIBIL MSME rank, I wanted to give some context in terms of the importance of MSMEs to India's GDP. So, MSMEs contribute almost 1/3 to India's GDP. And what MSME does for India is actually gives employment to the semi-skilled and the unskilled laborers, which may or may not be fully absorbed by the corporate sector. Now, MSME has a huge ripple effect on the entire Indian economy. And when the government last more than 2 to 3 decades, in fact, post 1991, has been working towards enabling formal credit for the MSMEs.
Sure.
And why that's important? Because when an MSME goes to informal credit sectors, the rate may be different. When they are migrated to the formal credit sector, the rates of available to those MSME are much lower, and that lower rate of interest actually helps to improve the margins of those MSME and improves their cash flows, which they can deploy back into their businesses. Now, it was getting difficult for lenders to underwrite MSMEs because of multiple non-availability of data or information for them to underwrite them objectively. That's where we work to provide a CIBIL MSME rank to every MSMEs in the country based upon their repayment history, based upon their utilization levels, based upon their repayment track, everything. Now, CMR ranges from 1 to 10, 1 being the best, where the industry has moved towards risk-based pricing, which means that every MSME who have a CMR of 1 to 3 will get a green channel treatment from the financial institution within the country. Now, what does it do? It helps one migrate the MSMEs from the informal credit sector to the formal credit sector. At the same time, the institutions are encouraging the MSMEs to have a good repayment history so that they continuously keep getting working capital and long-term loans from them to enhance and expand their business.
Sure.
So what it does is that it really empowers the MSME to grow their businesses, and when MSMEs grow, India grows.
Yeah, very interesting. I'm just looking at some numbers out here, Bhavesh. 6,500 financial institutions. That's the number of companies that you're connected with, and 10 crore credit monitoring customers. I'm sure these numbers are increasing as we speak. So it's evident that TransUnion CIBIL has a great role to play in today's economy and the credit industry. Let's talk about two very big pillars of support: financial awareness and financial inclusion. How do you play a role in that?
So we work with, you're absolutely right on your numbers and your research, that we work with 6,500 plus credit institutions in the country, right from the largest public sector bank to the private sector banks to all the cooperative banks and regional rural banks who provide access to credit to all the citizens in this country. We work on multiple fronts with these credit institutions in increasing the awareness about good repayment history, because it's important for the consumer to understand that how a good repayment history and a good CIBIL score will help them on medium to long term basis. Sure. Because today most of the banks give the best rate of interest if you have a good repayment history. Yeah. At the same time, the question around monitoring by the consumers. So as we speak, the numbers have moved from 10 crore to almost reaching 12 crore consumers who monitor their credit history. Now, what does it do? the consumers who monitor their credit history, out of these 12 crores, almost 46% have actually improved their credit score in last 1 year. Now, why is that important? Because when a consumer, he or she sees their score, they get into the details, they have a better understanding of their CIBIL score, and hence they ensure that they continue to pay on a timely basis.
Sure.
When they pay on a timely basis, obviously they get a good CIBIL score, they improve their scores, and obviously the benefits they would get from credit institutions are huge, and that's truly empowering for the consumer.
Yeah.
So we work very closely with these financial institutions to promote the credit education, to promote financial literacy, and it's heartening to see how credit has reached to every household in this country. The growth in the semi-urban and rural locations have been enabled by the financial institution along with CIBIL by providing them faster and cheaper access to credit.
Very interesting. Let's talk about how this affects our viewers, our listeners, our audience on a daily basis. So, speaking of tools, so what solutions does TransUnion CIBIL provide that can help people on every aspect of credit?
Okay, so I'll just give a small story. It's a personal story. So I was going few years back from Chandigarh to Amritsar with my family to Golden Temple early morning, and a young guy was driving an Ertiga. I booked it through one of the mobile apps. While the cab fellow was driving, I got a call from my office, and I was speaking few times about CIBIL score. And then the driver asked me, "Sir, do you work with CIBIL?" I said, "Yes, I work with CIBIL." And I didn't reveal my identity or my role. He said, "I want to share a small story." I said,
nice.
"Please go ahead."
Yeah.
He said, "Sir, demonetization happened. Cash was not accepted at petrol pumps. I took a credit card. I used to pay my petrol bills through credit cards. And then I realized that I was paying on time. Then I heard about CIBIL score. I took my own credit report and CIBIL score. And then one day my parents asked me saying that, can we buy a home? And I wanted to make sure that I can give a proper home to my elderly parents. And on the outskirts of Chandigarh, I wanted to buy a home. I went to one of the public sector banks. I said, I want to buy a home and I want to take a housing loan from your bank. And first thing they asked me is that, what's your CIBIL score? They access that individual's CIBIL score basis the information provided, and that individual CIBIL score was 780.
Nice.
And the young chap said that loan was sanctioned to me in the best possible timeline with the best benefits and terms. And I said, great, congratulations. And he said, sir, that's not where the story ends.
Okay.
He said, first time I was not being put down for my profession, that I am a driver and I may not be entitled to benefits in this country. Basis my CIBIL score, I was given a housing loan in the shortest possible time with the best rate of interest. And that story stayed with me forever.
Right.
Because this is truly empowering for the consumer, that today you are breaking social barriers, that individual has an identity and he's proud to have a good CIBIL score.
Very interesting.
And to your point around the tools, yes, today for an individual, it's the CIBIL score, which ranges from 300 to 900, 900 being the best. And for the MSMEs, up to a credit exposure of 50 crore, you have the CIBIL MSME rank, which ranges from 1 to 10. And individuals as well MSMEs can come on CIBIL.com, take their own credit report and CIBIL score if it's an individual, commercial credit report and the CIBIL MSME rank, and continue to monitor them so that whenever they need credit from a financial institutions, they know in terms of where do they stand vis-a-vis basis their repayment history and their entitlement, the rate of interest which will be levied by different institutions, the terms and conditions
Sure.
will be all linked to how they have been repaying to these institutions over past few years.
What's called credit history.
That's called credit history.
So, last question for today, Bhavesh, is that I'm getting, there are two things that stand out from our conversation so far, and what I want to leave our audience with is trust and transparency, right? The CIBIL score has been a revolutionary product. It provides a clear and unbiased view of a person's credit profile. So, let's talk about trust and transparency and how the score builds it as the last message for our audience today.
Great. So all these 6,000 plus institutions report their data to us on a regular basis. Basis the reporting, we collate that information. We provide one free credit report to every citizen of this country through CIBIL.com or through the CIBIL app. And when an individual look at their credit history and their CIBIL score on CIBIL.com, if they have any concern or a dispute with regard to their report, they raise it on CIBIL.com. Now, this ensures the consumer an opportunity not just to understand the report, but also raise a dispute if they have any concern with the data reported by banks or other financial institutions.
Sure.
Similar process for the MSMEs, but what it ensures is that a consumer can monitor their credit history, their credit score, and it ensures that the consumer knows upfront their score, their credit history, their entitlement from different credit institutions.
Sure.
That's around trust and transparency. But I also want to add one more aspect, that over the years, the buying behavior or the sort of comfort or the benefits the consumers are getting in this country because of good credit repayment history.
Yeah.
And elaborate through an example. In the 90s or early 2000, a television set was bought through a lot of research. You would have a teenage girl or a boy who would be asked by the parents to go and find out about the television, the features, the price point, do a comparison sheet, and then show it to their parents. And then the parents would say that on one of the auspicious days, we will go and buy that television set. Now what has happened? If I have to tell my daughters that let's buy a new television set, at the comfort of the sofa set in the living room, they'll go on any of the apps. They'll compare 3-4 television sets, and they'll ask me that do I have a credit card to get any of the cashbacks or other offers, or if there's a loan available at the checkout stage. And suddenly that amount of 50,000 rupees or 1 lakh is getting converted into an EMI. My daughters or any other teenager or kid in the home would convince their parents not just to buy a television set, but even buy a home theater along with the television set. And over benefits, over EMI. So what you're doing is that suddenly you have involved purchase converted into a impulse purchase, and at the same time at the comfort of your living room. And when you look at from the lens of the consumer, you're simplifying the sort of life of the consumer. At the same time, you are ensuring that their dreams are fulfilled. The happiness which a kid would have by having a television set as well as a home theater is unparalleled. And it takes back to my childhood days that if I would have a television set and a home theater, I would feel really happy about it. So the brand CIBIL has not just enabled trust and transparency, but actually empowered the consumers to fulfill their dreams.
Very interesting. On that note of positivity, we end the first episode of Credit Conversations with CIBIL. And thank you very much, Bhavesh Jain, for doing this for our audience.
Thank you so much, Anupam. It was my pleasure to be on your podcast.
Great to have you here. Thanks, Bhavesh.